Hey everyone, welcome to week 2 of the Colden Hat Crochet Along. This week we're going to be working on our diamond lattice stitch and our little section here, which is made using half double crochet slip stitch into the third loop. So I am super excited to get started on this. I've included detailed video instructions on how to create your diamond lattice stitch, which I highly recommend watching this video for it because it can be a little bit tricky to understand in just the written version. But if you're looking for the written section, you can find that on the blog now. I've included detailed written instructions and photos in there as well. So you can find that in the description below. But let's go ahead and work on the main body part of our hats. And now we're gonna work into the next section. We're gonna be working the top part of our hat. And we're going to be alternating different sections using lattice stitch. So to set up our lattice stitch rows, we have our first single crochet row. Now we're going to chain 3. This counts as your first stitch. And then we're going to double crochet into each stitch around. Okay, so here we've just worked our last double crochet and we are going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 to join. Okay, and then we'll be ready to work our first lattice stitch row. So if you've never worked lattice stitch before, you can check out my other videos on here on YouTube where I have a tutorial specifically just for lattice stitch, but I'll also show you quickly here how I do it. For the initial setup row, I like to use stitch markers just so I can know where I'm keeping track of things. It helps me keep better track of my count. So I like to use just these simple little slip-in stitch markers. And I'm going to put one right into the join. And we're going to place our stitch markers in every 4th stitch. So you'll have 3 stitches in between each stitch marker. And I'm going to go ahead and put them all the way around my hat. And then where I'm placing these, wherever you see a stitch marker, we're actually going to be skipping working into that stitch. Okay, so to do our initial setup round of the lattice stitch, we are not going to chain. We are actually going to be skipping working this first stitch here, this chain stitch, and we are going to yarn over twice because we're going to be working a treble crochet 2 together. And then if you see your chain 3 right here, we're actually going to be working 2 stitches back but into the single crochet row. So we've yarned over twice and we're going to be working around, like back behind that stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop. We'll have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2. So you'll have 2 loops left on your hook. Now here's our chain 3 of our double crochet row. We are going to be working into the 2nd stitch from the chain 3 and again going around through or back behind the single crochet stitch. Insert our hook, draw up a loop. Now we should have 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through all 3. Okay, and then back here, this is the stitch that we're skipping, the chain 3, but then we are going to single crochet into the top of the next 3 stitches. And you'll see that after we do that, we've hit another stitch marker. This is our next stitch that we're not going to work into. Okay, so we're going to create another upside down V using the treble crochet 2 or double treble crochet 2 together. So we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to insert our hook from the front to the back, back to front, around that same single crochet stitch that we just worked into. Draw up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over twice again, and this time if you look in between your stitch markers, you'll see these 3 stitches here. We're going to work into the center stitch 2 rows below. So back from front to back to front around this single crochet, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through all 3. Okay, so we've made our next upside down V. We're going to work back into the double crochet stitches. We're going to skip this stitch that the stitch marker is in, and we're going to single crochet into the next 3 double crochets. And here we've hit our next stitch marker. And we're just going to repeat this process all the way around the hat. So again, working a double treble crochet 2 together, yarn over twice, insert your hook behind the single crochet stitch 2 rows below, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, leave 2 loops on your hook. And then again, working into the center stitch, or I guess the 4th stitch from where you are right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 rows below. We're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook from front to back to front around that single crochet stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop. We'll have 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through all 3. And then we skip the stitch where the stitch marker is, and we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And so you can see that we're forming the bottom section of our lattice stitch row. So I'm going to continue to do that process all the way around the hat. So here you can see we're going to be working our last set of front post treble crochet 2 together. So I'm going to yarn over twice and finish this second half by working into the same stitch that we started with, and finish that front post treble crochet 2 together. This is the stitch I skip, and I'm going to end by working my 3 single crochets into those double crochets. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the front post treble crochet 2 together to join that round. And then you can go ahead and take the stitch markers out, as we probably will not be needing them for the next couple rows, since we'll already have some things in place, since we can already see the first half of our lattice stitch. So our next row around is going to be just double crochet. So you're going to chain 3. This counts as the first stitch. And then we are going to double crochet into each stitch around. And you'll be working your double crochets back into the single crochets and the front post treble crochet 2 together stitches from the previous round. Okay, so I'm completing my last double crochet for this round. And then again, I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 to join. Okay, so now we're ready to work our next piece of our diamond lattice stitch, where we'll be closing up and completing these diamond shapes. So for this one, we're going to chain 1, and we are going to single crochet into the same stitch as our join and into the next stitch. Okay, so you can see that for each stitch here, if I can show you, where our double crochets are worked into the top of our double treble crochet 2 togethers right here, so the chain stitch and this stitch, there are 3 double crochet in between. We will always be skipping this double crochet in between. So we've worked 2 single crochets. Now we're going to yarn over twice and insert our hook from the front to the back to the front around our front post treble crochet 2 together from the row below. We're going to yarn over and draw up a loop. We'll have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, leaving 2 loops on our hook, and then we're going to yarn over again twice, and we're going to work behind the front post treble crochet 2 together from the previous row 2 rows below through the next one. So at least for this one, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 3. So at least for this round, you don't necessarily need the stitch markers, because we know where we're going to work our stitches, because we're going to be working around these front post treble crochet 2 together stitches. So I've worked our first set of front post treble crochet 2 together stitches. If I look behind into this double crochet row, I'm going to skip the next stitch and then work a single crochet into each of the next 3 double crochets. And then work another front post treble crochet 2 together around the front post treble crochet 2 together stitches from the row below. And this will create our diamond shapes. And again, go to the back, skip the next stitch, and then single crochet into each of the next 3 double crochet stitches. And again, work another front post treble crochet 2 together, going around the front post treble crochet 2 together from the round 2 rounds below. Skip the next stitch and single crochet into each of the next 3 double crochets. And we're going to do this all the way around, and you'll see that we're completing the diamond shape in these rows. Okay, so we're about to work our very last front post treble crochet 2 together. And we're working that around this post here and the one that we started with, that very first one. And then you can see this is the stitch I last worked into. I'm going to skip this one and work 1 single crochet into the last stitch, and then slip stitch to the first stitch to join. Okay, and that completes our first section of our diamond lattice stitch. And now we're going to work into the next section. And to start this section, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to single crochet into the same stitch as our join and into each stitch around. So just 1 row of single crochet. Okay, so we'll work our last few single crochet stitches. And then we will slip stitch to the top of the first stitch to join. Okay, so our next rounds are going to be working half double crochet slip stitch. So we chain 1. This does not count as our first stitch. And then to work a half double crochet slip stitch, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, and we're going into the same stitch as our join, yarn over and draw up a loop, and then we're going to pull that loop that we just pulled up right through both loops on our hook. So it's kind of like a half double crochet since we yarn over first, but then we actually slip those stitches through all loops on our hook. And what that's going to do is that's going to push the front of our stitches forward. So you'll see them here. And it's going to give us a 3rd loop in the back, which will be important for the next round that we do. So we're just going to half double crochet, slip stitch all the way around for this first round. And then if needed, one thing I found helpful, you can see here are our front 2 loops of each stitch, and then right behind you'll see this extra row of loops back here. So what I like to do is put my stitch marker, it's kind of hard to see that first loop. So here's our very first stitch, here's our first loop. It can get kind of hidden, and we're actually going to have to work into that loop during the next round. So I go ahead and put my stitch marker in there while I'm working this round so I don't lose it, because it can get kind of lost in the work. So I highly recommend using a stitch marker for that purpose, just to mark so you can see it once you finish your round and you're ready to work the next one. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue working around this next round with half double crochet slip stitch. So here I'm going to work my last 2 stitches of this round, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top or the front of the first stitch of the round to join. I'm going to chain 1, and this next round we're going to continue working half double crochet slip stitches, but instead of working into the top of our stitches, we're going to work into that 3rd loop in the back. So you can see where I placed my stitch marker. That's where I'm going to put my first half double crochet slip stitch. And then I'm going to continue to work each half double crochet slip stitch into the back 3rd loop that was created from the stitch or the round before. And again, working into that stitch pushes those front stitches forward so we can see them a little bit better. So you'll see we're getting a nice looking like lines here created from that. And then if you want, you can move your stitch marker up to this round, because we'll also be working our next round into these 3rd loops. So again, here's the first stitch that we created, and here is that 3rd loop in the back. So I'm going to place my stitch marker there so I know where I'm going to work my next round. and I will continue working half double crochet slip stitches into the third loop all the way around. Okay, we'll work our last 2 half double crochet slip stitches into the third loop here to complete this round. And then again, we slip stitch to the front or the top of the first stitch to join. And then we're going to chain 1. And this time we're just going to single crochet around, but again, like the previous rounds, we're going to work into that third loop where our stitch marker is. So I'm going to single crochet into the third loop all the way around. Okay, so then we're going to work our last 2 stitches of our single crochet into the third loop, and then slip stitch to the top of the first stitch to join. Okay, so we've created our brim, a ribbed brim, and we've done our first set of diamond lattice stitch, and now we've done our first set of our half double crochet slip stitches. So we ended with a single crochet row, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to repeat these rows again, starting with our next double crochet row. So we're going to chain 3. This counts as our first stitch, so we're not going to work here. We're going to work right here into the next stitch, and we're just going to double crochet all the way around. And then we'll repeat our diamond lattice rows and our half double crochet slip stitch rows, and we're going to do that so that we have 3 whole repeats. So just continue to work around, and then you'll continue with your diamond lattice stitch row and then your half double crochet slip stitch row 2 more times for a total of 3 repeats.